Okay. Hi, Anthony.
Good afternoon.
Right, okay. First question. Are you single?
Yes, I am, but have a loving girlfriend
Right,
who
okay.
takes care of all my needs.
Girls. I'm sorry, I tried. Very hard, okay. Let's jump straight into GrabTaxi, right? Okay.
All right.
So, what inspired you to start GrabTaxi? You know, what is the mission?
So, it started actually with very strong Indonesian roots. One of my closest friends from business school, Aldi Haryatomo,
Right.
the guy who started Ruma. So he came first year business school, winter break, stayed in my house, took a taxi from the airport, and he said, "Holy cow, Anthony, the taxis really suck." He got cheated, he was pissed off, angry. I said,
Malaysia, right?
Yes, this is in KL. And he said, "Anthony, you of all people, your great-grandfather was a taxi driver, your grandfather started a lot of the Japanese auto industry around the region. You've had a lot of safety issues across. Why don't you do something about it?" So this guy, instead of staying in my house, eat my food, and enjoy what we have to offer, gives me this huge obligation to transform the industry. So I would say a big thanks to Aldi, fellow Indonesian, fellow brother of mine.
Okay, great. Let me jump straight into some figures, right? Last time Tech in Asia reported, you had like 2 bookings are made every second, 50,000 registered drivers. You are operating in 16 cities, 2.1 million app downloads, 400,000 monthly active users. You know, it clearly shows that, you know, GrabTaxi resonates very well with the commuters in Southeast Asia. You know, what is your secret? You know, what keeps the people coming back to GrabTaxi? What is the sticky sauce?
So quick correction, it's
Sure.
3 bookings per second.
3 bookings are made every second. 3 bookings.
So I would say, I think getting product market fit, as they teach you in textbooks, I think we as a Southeast Asian company, myself as a Malaysian, many of our, half my family is Singaporean.
Right.
We have Indonesians, we have Thais, we have Filipinos. I think understanding and appreciating and respecting the other person's model of the world, right? So really appreciating that taxi drivers need income daily, right? Understanding that they have a tough time trying to pay off their taxi rental every morning, 4 in the morning, right? Understanding that a lot of people use cash, right? Understanding these nuances and respecting it and creating a service and a product. So for example, I like giving this example because it really truly shows what we mean by respecting local cultures. So take Philippines. We have customer service. In customer service, if you call in Manila, they'll speak to you in Tagalog.
Right.
But in Cebu, they'll speak to you in Cebuano. So it's not only just localized from a Tagalog level, but it's all the way into that city. Because Luzon is very different, right? And in Davao is also very different. And it's the same in Johor, it's very different from KL. So I think appreciating these nuances and then building a product that suits these nuances and respects the culture and how our teammates, whether they are Thai or Indonesian or Filipino, they come from a different background, equally intense, equally sharing the same values, right? Of honesty, of loyalty, of trust, of intensity, but having a different background, right? They come from, whether it's from Ateneo or coming from a university in the States, whether it's my classmate from Harvard or not. We appreciate and respect these local, hyper-local differences, and that's what really makes it different.
Interesting. You mentioned quite a bit. You mentioned culture. You mentioned like cash payment. We'll come back a bit more on that later. So right now, I want to ask, which was tougher to get? Was it riders or drivers, and why?
Both were hard to get.
Right.
So initially, when we first launched, June 5th, 2012, I remember the first time we launched, we had like 100 drivers. And it was a small little media event. We could only afford a small room then. Actually, we didn't even pay for it, so thanks to Maxis, they paid for it. And we had about, 15 press media. And the next day, we had 11,000 downloads.
Wow.
So we were like, holy cow. And obviously, our service completely, it didn't work because we only had 100 drivers and probably 50 actives. So we couldn't fulfill that demand. So at that point, I would say it was a driver issue, right? But it's this tenuous balance where, as you know, in any network game platform, you really have to balance this. If you have too many drivers, too many jobs, well, too many drivers, they just can't fulfill, and then a lot of passengers get upset, and then the other way around. But in the early days, I think getting supply was tough. One of the stories if I may share, in Manila, I still remember I was talking to this taxi fleet owner, and we were sitting down in this table. It was like and there was sort of covered on a table, and I remember talking to him, and the next thing I know, I hear a thud on the ground. I'm like, whoa, what is that? And I look on the table and I see a semi-automatic machine gun. I was like, holy shit! Right.
Machine gun?
I mean, like
okay.
that was. So I found out later he's also a very big arms dealer in Philippines, right? So that's how business is in Southeast Asia. And again, not saying that is wrong or right. There's no wrong. It's his model of the world, and in fact, a lot of their drivers have joined us. So a lot of times, yes, there was no deal then because I was like, oh, whatever you want, I'm gonna leave, right? I had zero bargaining power at that point of time, and I just wanted to get the heck out of there. I realized the 5 guys who were following him weren't his friends. They were about 300 pounds, and they didn't look nice. So, but again, going back to the story, right? Appreciating that, and then saying, look, this is how it is in Southeast Asia. I appreciate it. Now's not the time to talk. Bail, and then talk again. And now many of their drivers are happy on our platform.
Great. Okay. You raise $90 million today. How? 90 million in Southeast Asia is easily one of the largest rounds, How do you do it? What was the pitch?
I think I have God to thank. That, as I shared with you just now backstage, that there's really no difference between me and anyone out here or in KL and Singapore. The only difference, I think, was I had great friends. I was blessed with great friends.
Really? Only friends?
So, yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, one of them, I'll like a shout out. Kylie, he's here today. Kylie Ng. He was the guy who put me in touch with Vertex. Right? We had several offers, but I remember Vertex being very aggressive. But they really cared about the entrepreneur. So finding Vertex led to GGV. Finding GGV led to Chinar, right? Finding GGV also led to Tiger Global. So I think it's a series of miracles. How did I meet Kylie, right? How did I meet my amazing teammates? These guys are super talented. They don't have to work with me. They have like 50 different options, right? We hardly paid anything in the early days, but they joined me to fight in the trenches because they believed in what we fought for. And I think each round, whether it was Vertex or Tiger Global or GGV, all of them just believed so much that this guy, this company, this team really wants to change Southeast Asia for the better. And he loves Southeast Asia. And Southeast Asia likes companies that love Southeast Asia and is built by Southeast Asians for Southeast Asians. So I think when they felt that, they really wanted to say, look, if it's anyone, we have so many options, but this is the company that we are betting on.
Right. So right now you have $90 million in the bank, and what the fuck are you? I'm sorry. What are you going to do with it? I'm sorry. I'm truly apologetic. What are you going to do with $90 million in the bank? Any expansion plans?
Yeah. So I think when you're built by Southeast Asians, designed by Southeast Asians,
right,
manufactured by Southeast Asians,
right,
for Southeast Asians, we want to stay in Southeast Asia. We love Southeast Asia. We understand Southeast Asia. We respect, we appreciate Southeast Asia. What we plan to do is hire a lot more people. So shout out, we love top talent. We love A-game players who share our values. So, for example, one of our values is your problem's my problem. You'll be shocked how hard it is to find top talents who share that value.
Right, for sure.
I think hiring the best engineers out there, the best coders, the best engineers, the best data guys, just the best executors, that's really hard to find. That's going to suck up quite a bit of the cash. I'll be open and upfront. The second is, I think, keeping drivers really loyal to the platform, right? Drivers who appreciate the ecosystem we built around them and want to stay in that ecosystem, right? And they, when I talk to them, they're like, oh, what do you know about, I remember when I went to one of the first few taxi fleets, and they're like, dude, this guy's from Harvard, don't even talk to him, right? Then when they found out that, they're like, oh, the great-grandfather was a taxi driver. Oh, you understand my problem, right? Then we talked about it, and then I drove a taxi for a day, and all our top leaders all drive a taxi, drive a taxi for a day, and to feel the pain, right? In Japanese, they call it sangen shugi. It means feel the pain, see the pain, and solve it yourself, right? So I think when you understand and appreciate it, those nuances, the drivers really appreciated that. And then the third is obviously passengers, our riders, our partners. So we work with great partners, whether it's Wanda Coffee. We did a great campaign with Wanda Coffee, where they did something like 180,000 requests in a few days just for coffee.
Right.
So people like Maxis. We worked with M1 in Singapore. We work with Globe in Philippines. So I think investing in these relationships and because it's not cheap, right? We do win-win deals. I think these things, they really appreciate that we take care of their brand and they take care of us.
Right. I would like to touch about GrabBike in Vietnam. I think you launched it sometime back in Vietnam. GrabBike is very interesting because I think like motorbikes in Southeast Asian countries, they are the majority, mode of transport. And what are plans? Is it only in Vietnam, or is it going to be in Indonesia, Philippines, or where else?
So we've betaed in Vietnam. It's been very, very successful.
Right.
For us, I think it's all about focus. It's really important that we build something great rather than try and spread your seeds everywhere and be nowhere. I think that's always been our, when people said, oh, Anthony, 90 million, you can do so much, right? You can go to other countries that your affinities to, right? Whether it's Taiwan or whatever it is. I think for us, doing something great rather than doing something just, good, just doesn't make sense. So for us, getting it right in Ho Chi Minh and getting people loving it, that's more important than thinking about how do we spread our seeds as fast as possible.
Okay, I have a question from one of our attendees. So here it goes. Hi, Anthony. Any plans to build?
Hi.
Right. Okay. Any plans to build in-app payment? What's your take on cash payment on GrabTaxi?
Yeah. So, for us, why did we go non-credit card or non-debit card, we realized that most people wanted something that they were used to. We are habitual creatures. Humans love habits, and whether we love it or not, we are prey to it. And they just were used to paying in cash. So if you look at, even in Jakarta, right, you talk to whether it's, any of the big taxi fleets, they still, most of their transactions are all in cash. So I think when we built it initially, that was what our thought process. As the market evolves, you have to keep very close track of the market,
Right.
and what do people want. And I think there is more and more of an evolution where people do want cashless payments. But again, it's still a very select group of people. If you look at credit card users around Southeast Asia, it's still quite small. And I think that will grow, but it's not growing at the pace at which we see non-credit card, non-debit card. So
I see.
cash is still the fastest growth right now.
Okay. Okay. Next up. So now you have $90 million and you're hiring. You talk
Very
about culture,
aggressively.
Very aggressively. You talk about culture. What's like in GrabTaxi? What's the culture?
So we're a bunch of friends, big
Right.
group of friends. In fact, they make fun of me more than I make fun of them. So there was once we had a offsite, and one of the things was they played they know that my Bahasa Malaysia is quite poor, to say at best, and they did a PowerPoint sort of game where I've never seen the slides ever before, and they needed me to talk about it in Bahasa Malaysia. Obviously, they were just laughing for like 30 minutes after that. And you see this all the time, right? It's I think, a culture of lots of respect for each other. But we push hard, right? So for example, I'll be like, I don't understand, why can't you get it done, right? And they'll be like, dude, I'll be there 10 o'clock. Last night, we left the office at midnight. We had guys calling from all over the region. Until 12:30, we left the office. We took a flight this morning at 7 in the morning. So, for a lot of us, I think flying around the region and the intensity of loving what we do, a lot of us have been very blessed. So, I can't speak for a lot of my teammates, but for myself, we've been so blessed that we don't need to really think. Our primary motivator is not cash. It's about building something great and something that makes a positive difference in other people's lives. And I think when that's infectious, because we want to be remembered for something. All of us, our lives are finite. We want to be remembered that this company, these people, this group of people, Southeast Asians, actually love Southeast Asia, built for Southeast Asia, for Southeast Asians. And I think a lot of Southeast Asians are just tired of it's always some other company out there. It's always, a European company. It's always Silicon Valley. But Southeast Asians need to realize that we've come to a stage in our lives where we have more mobile users than Europe, right? We have rising incomes. We have people who are just getting so much smarter. We have talent now. We have capital now. If we blow this, it's just a joke. There's so few Southeast Asian companies who's made it. Right. And we haven't even made it. We've only reached a stage. We've shown some traction, right? But we need to find Southeast Asian champions. We need startups out there looking at other Southeast Asian startups and saying, they fought for the right values. Right. They fought for what they believed in. They didn't have all the money in the world in the early days. When I was just sharing with you, we started in a guardhouse. We didn't even have a freaking aircon. We had a fan. We didn't have internet. I had to tether from my mobile, right? It was so tough. But we did some, and we've gotten here, but there's a lot more to do. But finding these type of people who share those values, who, I remember like, you know, a lot of the guys who joined us, whether they were from McKinsey or Accenture or from Friendster or from Cambridge or Harvard or whatever big names they came from, they shared, they said, Anthony, I'm taking a huge pay cut, but I believe in what we're going to do. Fortunately now, they are happy because the stock has appreciated quite a bit. So they bet right. They bet not on me, they bet on what we were fighting for. And that culture of intensity, the culture of frank feedback, where we just say, look, it's not, just give me feedback. So every time we will have a session like this, I'll talk to one of our teammates.
Wow.
And whether it's on a flight or in a coffee shop, and she will say, hey Anthony, this is where I think you can improve. And I'm like, yeah, that's great feedback. I don't spend enough time on this, right? And in the same way, I'll say, you know, Andrew, I really like how you do this, but there's these things that I really feel there's just so much room for improvement there, and I know you can do it, right? Let me know how I can help you get it done, right? And that culture of your problem's my problem is a lot of people talk about it, but very few people live it. And we, as a company, live it.
Right. You know, everything looks good, right? You know, you raise money, you know, you have very good traction, good figures, you know, you talk about having a great culture in a company. You know, tell the crowd, you know, what is one mistake that you make? One big mistake you made, yeah.
Hiring B players. Hiring guys, girls or guys, regardless. So half my leadership team that report to me are women. All around, they come from, whether they're American, Laotian, so Southeast Asian, or Chinese, Thai, whatever the nationality, we don't care. We don't care gender, we don't care age. We have guys who are 23 taking a senior leadership role to guys who are 42 or 43 taking a senior leadership role. But we do care about having the same values.
Right.
And one of the biggest mistakes was being too nice. That's why whenever startups come up to us and they say, Anthony, you know, I just said, look, if you're sure, just let go. Just be fair to the person, be reasonable, take care of the person, and let go and move on. Right? Be honest and move on. Right? Because you don't have time, you don't have resources. Time is not your friend. Right? And you got to move, and you got to hire better, and you got to say, okay, what did I do wrong here? One of the biggest mistakes I made was we hired because we needed people. But we forgot it's not about people, it's about the right people who resonate with us, who can fight with us hand in hand in the trenches, right? Who's not like some big picture thinker, oh, you know, you should think about it this way. I'm like, get it done. Like, go down, talk to the taxi driver, 4 o'clock in the morning, I don't give a shit, get it done, right? And he does the same, and he says, Anthony, are you coming with me? Yeah, let's do it. 4 o'clock in the morning, we're in the taxi fleet, drinking with the taxi drivers, right? Of course, it's after his shift.
How big is your team now?
We have a few hundred people all across the region.
A few hundred is?
So we're about 500 people across Southeast Asia.
People. With 500 people and $90 million in the bank, what is your grand plan?
Grand plan is to build something.
Be real.
Yeah.
You know, transparent.
I think for us, we've grown to a size where there are very, very few sort of exit plans, right? For us, we basically said, look, we promise each other when we go down to whatever, NASDAQ or whatever it is, to ring the bell together. And that promise to our leadership team of being together, you know, the 10, 15 of us, the band of brothers and sisters, ringing the bell together is something that would bring us tremendous satisfaction. And knowing that we really affected people's lives, right? Knowing that somebody out there every second, 3 bookings, 3 bookings, 3 bookings, right? And it's growing so fast week on week. And I always say to our people, if we fail, a few 100,000 people don't move the region. We affect the domestic economy. If we fail, so many Southeast Asian startups are going to be so disappointed because they said, dude, you had everything. You know, I remember this story my uncle shared with me. He said, your grandfather had primary 2 education, could only speak Hokkien, couldn't even speak English or Mandarin or Chinese or any other language. He didn't go to school. He had no friends. He had no degree. He had no capital. And yet he pulled off and built a great company. What's your excuse, Anthony? So that is our obligation, to build something to give hope that Southeast Asians, by Southeast Asians, can build something kick-ass around this region.
Interesting. You mentioned that GrabTaxi is sort of like a social enterprise, right? You mentioned that you are trying to help drivers to earn more money. How is that like?
So our drivers, and this is empirical evidence, our drivers make between 30 to 300% more every day. So if you think about it,
You track those figures?
we track the figures.
Right.
We know how much our drivers make, and we can see, like, their lives. I mean, in the beginning, they start with, first you have to convince them so hard to buy a whatever $70, $80 phone, and then they buy it. It's it's like literally we call it the rice bowl, your first rice bowl, and they look at it and they like. I remember when we first did our first training of the 70 drivers, they didn't even know how to switch it on. Now they're like Skyping, they are WhatsApping, they are going crazy with it, right? And they could only go gangbusters because they had this opportunity to have that. So we microfinance it to them, we provide it to them, teach them, train them how to use it, and then they fly with it. And then that's for the drivers. For passengers, we focus a lot on safety, we focus a lot on a majority, for example, in Philippines, a big majority of our riders every day are women. So that's something that right from the onset at business plan competition, we said we wanted to make sure that women feel safe. Right? That was something that was really dear to our hearts. Right? That I know I can put my girlfriend, my sister, my daughter, my mom in there, and I know they'll come out fine. And that was a huge problem in Southeast Asia. And those were the 2 things we focused on, building a company that solves real problems.
Wow. Right, we have 2 minutes left. One thing can share with entrepreneurs out there, just one thing.
Well, off the top of my head, I think
Raise 90 million?
raising is not fun, but it's very doable. I know it's not obvious, but I pray a lot, and all I can say is I am no different from anybody. I would say I'm less sharp than some of my sharpest teammates out there who are actually in the audience. But if you love them, and you love God, and you love yourself, and you love what you fight for, that authenticity, that sincerity, that passion, it's freaking relentless. And that is something that nobody can copy from you. And that is somebody nobody can take from you. That's something that you would fall in love with. And remember the day when you fell in love. That's how it felt when we built GrabTaxi together.
Okay, thank you so much, Anthony. I wish you all the best. See you next time. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.